Every single day, thousands of thoughts pass through your mind. Some you chose, most you didn't. They came from the news, from a comment someone made, from a fear you've been carrying since you were a child. And here's what nobody tells you. Your life is literally being built by those thoughts. So the question isn't just how do I think positively? The real question is, how do I protect my mind when the world keeps throwing chaos at it? That's exactly what we're getting into today. There's a book written back in 1925 called The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. And honestly, it reads like it was written for right now. Shinn opens up with this. Most people consider life a battle, but it is not a battle, it is a game. And like any game, you can learn the rules. The biggest rule: your mind is the playing field. What you allow to live there shapes everything outside of it. Your relationships, your finances, your health, your peace. Shinn puts it plainly. The imaging faculty plays a leading part in the game of life, and she backed that up with one of the most quoted lines in the book straight from Proverbs. Keep thy heart, or imagination, with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Proverbs 4:23. Today we're pulling 3 powerful principles from her work and making them practical for the world we're actually living in. Let's get into it. Whatever man feels deeply or images clearly is impressed upon the subconscious mind and carried out in minutest detail. Shinn described the mind as having 3 layers. She writes, there are 3 departments of the mind: the subconscious, conscious, and superconscious. The subconscious is simply power, without direction. It is like steam or electricity, and it does what it is directed to do. It has no power of induction. In other words, the subconscious doesn't judge, it doesn't filter, it just acts on what it's given. And the superconscious, Shinn called it the God mind. She writes, the superconscious mind is the God mind within each man, and is the realm of perfect ideas. In it is the perfect pattern spoken of by Plato, the divine design, for there is a divine design for each person. Here's the problem. Most of us are letting our subconscious get filled by default. Social media, toxic conversations, doom scrolling at midnight. And the subconscious doesn't fact check. It absorbs everything and it starts producing it. Shinn tells a striking story of this in action. I know of a man who feared a certain disease. It was a very rare disease and difficult to get, but he pictured it continually and read about it until it manifested in his body, and he died the victim of distorted imagination. That's not a horror story, that's a warning. She also compares the subconscious mind to a recording device. It is like a singer making a record on the sensitive disc of the phonographic plate. Every note and tone of the singer's voice is registered. If he coughs or hesitates, it is registered also. So let us break all the old bad records in the subconscious mind, the records of our lives which we do not wish to keep, and make new and beautiful ones. So how do you guard the gate? First, become aware of what you're letting in. Notice how you feel after certain content, certain people, certain conversations. Does your body feel tight? Do you feel hopeless? Second, don't just consume, create. Instead of passively absorbing the world, ask, what am I intentionally placing in front of my mind today? A morning routine, an affirmation, something that expands you. These aren't luxuries, they are maintenance for the most important asset you have. Third, interrupt the pattern. The moment you catch a spiraling thought, a fear, a worst-case scenario on loop, you don't have to fight it. Shinn called this casting the burden. She gives us these exact words to use. I now smash and demolish, by my spoken word, every untrue record in my subconscious mind. They shall return to the dust heap of their negative nothingness, for they came from my own vain imaginings. I now make my perfect records through the Christ within. The records of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. That's the reset. Speak it, mean it, move forward. Your subconscious is powerful. It will work for you or against you, depending on what you feed it. Guard the gate. Nothing on earth can resist an absolutely non-resistant person. This one is probably the hardest concept in the book, and the most needed right now. Shinn writes about the law of non-resistance, and she opens that chapter with this. The Chinese say that water is the most powerful element because it is perfectly non-resistant. It can wear away a rock and sweep all before it. Most of us do the opposite. When something feels wrong, a difficult person, an unfair situation, an environment that drains us, we tighten up, we obsess, we resist. And Shinn's argument is that resistance keeps you locked to the very thing you're fighting. She says it directly. So long as man resists a situation, he will have it with him. If he runs away from it, it will run after him. And then this. Resistance is hell, for it places man in a state of torment. Think about that in your own life. Is there a situation you've been fighting mentally, replaying it, resenting it, building arguments in your head? How much energy has that taken? Has it actually changed anything? Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you stop letting external chaos consume your internal world. Shinn tells a story of a woman thrown into business dealings with a man who made her feel poor and drained her energy. Here's how Shinn describes the turning point. It dawned on her one day that she was resisting the situation and seeing two powers instead of one. So she blessed the man and baptized the situation success. She affirmed, as there is only one power, God, this man is here for my good and my prosperity. Just what he did not seem to be there for. And here's what Shinn says happened next. Soon after that, she met, through this man, a woman who gave her, for a service rendered, several $1,000s, and the man moved to a distant city and faded harmoniously from her life. Shinn's instruction for dealing with people or situations that disturb you: bless your enemy, and you rob him of his ammunition. His arrows will be transmuted into blessings. Here's how to practice this. 1. Name it and release it. When you feel pulled into a spiral, literally speak this affirmation from the book. I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free. You're not pretending the problem doesn't exist. You're choosing not to be consumed by it. 2. Bless and move. Resentment keeps you energetically tied to what you hate. Shinn instructs us to make this statement daily. Every man is a golden link in the chain of my good, for all men are God in manifestation, awaiting the opportunity given by man himself to serve the divine plan of his life. 3. Protect your environment. Shinn says it plainly. Life is a mirror, and we find only ourselves reflected in our associates. Choose mirrors that reflect who you're becoming, not who you've been. Speak it into existence. By thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. Shinn was deeply convinced that our words are one of the most powerful forces available to us. She opens the chapter on the power of the word with this. A person knowing the power of the word becomes very careful of his conversation. He has only to watch the reaction of his words to know that they do not return void. Through his spoken word, man is continually making laws for himself. She then gives one of the most vivid examples in the whole book. I knew a man who said, "I always miss a car. It invariably pulls out just as I arrive." His daughter said, "I always catch a car. It's sure to come just as I get there." This occurred for years. Each had made a separate law for himself. One of failure, one of success. Two people, same street, completely different realities, both created entirely by their repeated words. And the stakes are even higher than we think. Shinn quotes directly from scripture. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Proverbs 18:21. She also warns, many people have brought disaster into their lives through idle words. She gives the example of a woman who lost her home and her wealth. Here's how Shinn tells it in her own words. A woman once asked me why her life was now one of poverty, of limitation. Formerly she had a home, was surrounded by beautiful things, and had often tired of the management of her home and had said repeatedly, "I'm sick and tired of things. I wish I lived in a trunk." And she added, "Today I am living in that trunk." She had spoken herself into a trunk. Think about the sentences you repeat about yourself, about money, about love, about what's possible for you. Those aren't just observations. They're instructions to your subconscious, and it follows them faithfully. Here are 3 ways to start changing this. 1. Audit your language. For 1 full day, notice every word you speak about yourself and your life. Shinn warns us, the subconscious mind has no sense of humour, and people often joke themselves into unhappy experiences. Even offhand comments count, even jokes. Be watchful. 2. Replace, don't just remove. Don't just stop saying the negative. Replace it with something expansive. Shinn gives us one of her most famous affirmations which a student created with her. I have a wonderful work, in a wonderful way. I give wonderful service for wonderful pay. She explains why a rhyme sinks easily into the subconscious. Make your affirmations feel good to say. Make them musical. 3. Use the morning. Shinn says, make an affirmation immediately upon waking. For example, Thy will be done this day. Today is a day of completion. I give thanks for this perfect day. Miracle shall follow miracle, and wonders shall never cease. Then, make this a habit, and one will see wonders and miracles come into his life. Before you check your phone, before you react to the world, speak something intentional. That's not naivety, that's programming. Here's the truth. The world is not going to get quieter. The noise will keep coming. The bad news, the difficult people, the unexpected challenges, that's the game. But Florence Scovel Shinn's message holds up because it's not about changing the world around you first. It's about changing the world within you first. She writes, the object of the game of life is to see clearly one's good and to obliterate all mental pictures of evil. And at the very end of the book, she gives us this simple formula. The simple rules are fearless faith, non-resistance, and love. Guard what you let in, release what you can't control, and speak deliberately, consistently, the life you're building. Because as Shinn says, any man who does not know the power of the word is behind the times. The game is yours to play. Now you know the rules.